McCann Talks presents Aging, the Non-Issue.
Hello, welcome to the first episode of McCann Talks podcast, a series created to spark the conversations about relevant topics in the society that we live in and the role of the ad industry in this society. My name is Jana, I'm the Executive Creative Director of McCann Belgrade, and my guest today here is Regan Warner from McCann London.
Hello.
Hello, Regan. Welcome. Regan is the author and the lady behind the idea of the famous and celebrated campaign called the Non-Issue. Today, I'm going to talk with Regan about women and aging. To start with, Regan, in preparation for this talk, I woke up this morning, wanted to dress myself to look nice for this, and then I looked myself in the mirror, and the most definitely what I saw is the fact that I am aging, right? So
I do not see any of this. All I see is beauty.
Thank you, Regan, also to compliment to you, but the fact is there. So I'm 42, I'm aging, and what's the situation? Are we doomed? How do you feel about this?
I think well, I don't think we're doomed.
Yeah.
I think there is salvation. I do believe that we are all aging, obviously, and it's whether or not we feel the need to battle that. I don't think that you need to have products to become or look younger, but I don't mind putting a little Revitalift under my eyes and like waking up and feeling bright and shiny. I mean, and that gives me confidence, and I think that's okay. So I do think there's salvation, there's light at the end of the tunnel for us.
Exactly. I tend to agree because I read a nice article that compares the styles of our mothers when they were our age and how we dress and appear today. And for me, that was really, really interesting because when I compare, for instance, my mother, she was a mom. And now I think we have the tendency, we are pushed, we are influenced by the ad industry and by the terror of the youth and everything to look younger than maybe we naturally feel. Or what do you think about this?
Or is it because, as a society, we are in fact getting younger, acting younger, or we're just changing the preconceived notion of what older or younger is? Yeah. We're changing our map, so to speak, and we're defining new rules of how an older person or how a 42, 43-year-old is supposed to look. Yeah. I mean, I look like a 20-year-old. I mean, I dress like a 20-year-old. Yeah. I got Converse on, of course, but back in the day, our moms didn't look this way, and our grandmas surely didn't look this way. But society has changed, and we have changed with it. So we changed the rules. Good.
So we are not doomed. We are actually full of opportunities, right?
I think we're rocking it.
Good. Regan, what you did was really amazing. We all know and we read about the campaign on issue. It was a blockbuster of this industry, and so congratulations for this. It's really an amazing project. For those who don't know, and I guess some people don't know, what Regan and her team did was to launch a special issue, right, in May of 2019. The special issue of British Vogue was launched. 80 pages of what? Please lead us through
It was 80 pages, challenging the stereotype of what it is to be a modern 50-plus-year-old woman. Every article, every photograph, most contributors were over the age of 50. So it told that story, and this is a place where those women are conspicuously absent. And now we're putting them in the forefront and putting them, in a media that they're never seen.
Yeah, it was great, and you had the Jane Fonda, who is 81 years old and
she's
looking
absolutely,
she's a rock star on the cover of this magazine. Tell us, please, for the ad world, was it super complicated? Was it hard? Was it easy to sell this project? First of all, to think about it, to sell this project, and for this issue, for this non-issue, to see the light of the day and to stand.
It was a fast and furious process, and by the way, there was a whole team involved. So it definitely just was not me. It could not have been possible. I think we counted. There was 9 creatives that ended up working on this project. We have McCann, London and Paris offices. We have L'Oreal and Vogue. I mean, if you think about the quantity of people that had to make this this idea come to fruition, it was a challenging road. It all started with the boot camp, which is a 2-day intensive, and we wanted to talk it all started with a 2-day intensive boot camp that was geared toward coming up with game-changing ideas for Age Perfect. Whatever you want, pie in the sky. And at the end, we were going to present to the client. Great. Come in with a non-issue. By the way, there's no budget for any of this. This is just like what ifs. And those are my favorite briefs, like what is possible. And we came up with a non-issue and a whole issue based on trying to change the preconceived notions of what it is to be an older woman. And the client went for it. But this is one level of client. So we passed the first hurdle. All pretty easy, right? 2 days, come up with an idea, sell it. Great. Then things got a little bit more difficult because then we have to move up the ladder and sell to the global brand president, which is then when London and Paris really, that collaboration of McCann really came together. And Paris rocked it. They sold it to the global brand president, and miraculously a budget was found, which in the land of a big brand is hard to come by. But I think they saw, their clients were really super brave, and they saw that this was going to change. It's going to change. It's going to start a conversation about something we should all be talking about.
That's very important.
And they took a chance. And I respect, I mean, I love working for L'Oreal. I'm like a fangirl. And I just have so much respect for the clients coming to the edge of the cliff with us and jumping. So global brand president bought it. Awesome. We're on our road. Now we need to sell it to Vogue.
Yeah.
That's not intimidating at all. And we are selling them a whole issue that is basically 20 plus years and beyond their demographic for print and for online. So it's kind of a big chance. And they saw the idea, loved the idea, and they were completely on board. Then they wanted to have it for the May issue. This was September. So if you think about the amount of content that needs to be produced for an 80-page magazine, it's intense. And it was my first glimpse into the land of editorial. And those guys are hustlers. I mean, they just work. I mean, and they worked with us tirelessly to like come up with the content, to work with editorial. It was really important that we had L'Oreal's tone of voice. We wanted to make sure that we were having a conversation with our audience, because Vogue tends to tell you what to buy and what to wear. And we wanted it to be reverent and witty, but not bogged down about that doom and gloom that things are coming to an end now that you're 50. We wanted to show that there is life. There is life, and there's these women are taking charge, and I mean they're who we look up to.
Exactly, and I think to your point, I think that's super important, and that's one of the takeouts, and why this campaign received so many positive, because it sets the example. It reminds me really. Because I look at things, and when I read, one of my favorite shows in previous 2 years was Big Little Lies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, show created basically out of the thought that there are not enough good roles for the women after 45. So what those ladies did, that they gathered, they thought of the idea, created a script, and produced the things and this is also the example. So for me, those examples are super important as role examples for the girls, because today we talk about gender equality, women empowerment, but still we know how hard it is to be a teenage girl and to be faced with this dictatorship of perfection and everything. So more projects like this, in my opinion, is good, and this is what is really needed.
Yeah, I do think we live in a society, especially women of a certain age, where if there's no opportunity, we now create opportunity, and that's our role, and that we are leading the next generation to say, like, you know, if it's not there, make it happen. Exactly. You are your own destiny. You create your own destiny.
Exactly. I wanted to ask you one more thing, which is, I think, super important for all of us working in this industry. on smaller markets, right? So you're an expert, you work for a global brand, for an iconic global brand, and we know those brands are well thought through, strategically positioned in the centers of the world and everything, but we know how important it is for a global brand to be truly connected to the local market, right? And there is a culture of every country. L'Oreal you can find in the small town in Serbia as well as in London. So naturally, what we tend to do, what we want to do is to create some local work. Do you have any experience or advice from because what you also did was experimental, right? The non-issue is a super experiment. Do you have any advice for us, for the people in this industry who work on a smaller market, how to approach the work on global brands, how to make them?
I mean, I do think there needs to be a global voice that comes through all the work, and that needs to have consistency. But I mean, obviously, I'm American, so I'm American living in London, and so my tone of voice is different than where I live, and I had to learn how to speak to my audience. And people think in advertising, even though we're a big market, London, it's so much more beyond London. So we, as someone from a bigger market, has to learn how to talk from people from the north and people from the south, which is very different. Talk from Serbia, that's a whole different world, obviously. Exactly. And I do think that whilst you have a bigger brand message going through to have consistency, you need to make sure you have the tone of voice of your local market so you can talk to them. The insights that you have and the insights I have from where we live are completely different. So there's no one solution that should solve everything. And I think if you have a brand standard that encapsulates all that, then I think we're doing the right thing. I do believe everything worth doing that's really hard usually comes out with a great result. And I think you got to keep fighting the fight. I know London, it's a big market, but actually, Paris there are parents, and we have to respect their wishes, and we have to listen to them. So even a big market like London, we're still a regional market, and so we have the same issues and the same problems. And even with a project that does maybe have financial backing, there's still the process to get that financial backing. So we're still fighting the fight, the good fight, the creative fight, to get the best work out. And I think that's a universal standard with creatives, right?
Yeah, that's true. But more examples like this will make it easier for the rest of us. So we can know it's really good to encourage the client. There is also one other question that we want to ask all our guests, because we know now the talk about sustainability and the big brands and purposes, and we all know it. Those words are here for a year or two. But what is your experience? Because we know from our research, even local and the global ones, and also the Truth Central that we are part, that the people really do expect big global brands to lead the change. It's a complicated topic to do it with to do it gracefully and to do it meaningfully for the brands.
I mean, I think this is a tough topic. I think initially, let's talk about transparency. So as a brand, L'Oreal, they are starting to. Let's first. Okay, that's a. Begin again. What? That's a hard question. I think there's different levels you can go at. I think right now L'Oreal is starting with transparency. Transparency on how their products are made, on the research that goes behind it, on manufacturing processes, and I think that helps open that conversation. I think in the land of sustainability, I mean, they have tons of packaging. So I mean, we're gonna have a long time going before we get rid of that. But I think as long as they're aware, and as long as they keep making steps forward in trying.
Can you give us the example, talking about small markets, can you give us an example where you saw the opportunity, what was to be only the adaptation work, No, this is a stupid question. Maybe you just you just yeah. Well, I know where to put it.
Okay.
After the,
I'll give you an example
Yeah.
of a piece of work where we were just supposed to do an adapt from Paris, taking their global work and making it local. And it was for True Match, and it was in 2016. And we did that. We absolutely did it. We filled that brief, but then we thought beyond that, and we wanted to push it. And so we came up with the idea of having, it was 23 shades. They had expanded their shade range to fit more darker shades. And we thought that was a super interesting story. And then we started thinking about the idea of what does your shade mean to you? What does your skin tone actually mean to you? And they're like, we're like, dude, there's a lot of insight in that. Let's start telling that story. And as we presented to our client, at the time was Adrian Costas, we showed him the adapt. He's like, great, you know, good student. And then we just slid over. It was basically just a print ad that had the 23 squares.
It started like this.
And we had men and women in it, represented one person representing every shade. And we're like, or you could do this. And he's like, I think he literally said, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And we're like, that's what we could do. And he said, well, forget all this, let's do that. And him as a client was super brave. He took the chance.
Yeah.
He sold it up, and that campaign became a global campaign that the markets then started doing. So we actually kind of became the DMI for True Match, which was amazing. So I think anything is possible. You just have to find your insight and sell your
Exactly.
goods.
And like you said, anything is possible with true partners. All the ideas in the world that we think about and bring in front of our clients on the table are nothing without true partners. So I think it's super important to have brave clients, to have guys with a vision, which happens, and we should encourage those examples and really celebrate the brave decisions of our clients, because they set the goal not only in their houses, but also they set the example and show it to the whole market, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. Super interesting. Regan, you and me, we are obviously women.
Last time I checked.
Yeah, last time I checked. This morning I was the aging women, but we also work in advertising industry. Now, what I wanted to talk about, let's maybe share a perspective on the gender issue in our industry, because some people have problems with it. Is this still a madman land? Are the guys ruling the... How is it in London? I can tell you the perspective in Belgrade, for instance, because it's funny. We are a small country, but we have this socialist heritage that we grew up with. So all our mothers were working, and for us, it's strangely the small country outside of EU, but we have a great score. How to say?
Okay.
Yeah, maybe, I think more than 50% of the management in this building are ladies. You have MD ladies. There's me as a creative director, as a finance. So we don't have a problem with this. So when we read and when we absorb the information, what is happening in the ad industry, it's kind of a paradox, because you live in a super modern, developed world, and you have this kind of the glass ceiling issues. And what's going? What's your?
I do think it's changed, and I do think there obviously is a lot more women working in the industry as a whole. I think the paradox is. Women who have babies in this industry, because I think that is where it's like a cliff dive off to where women make the choice to stay home because it's too hard or too expensive to go back to work and have two people working whilst you have children. Because I feel like, especially in London, that's where the drop off is. You have tons of younger women working and without kids, tons of young creative teams. But then as soon as you get to CD level and then ECD level or MD level, that's where the numbers start dropping dramatically. And you're like, what is going on? Where are they all going? And they're making choices. I know I pay through the ass to have a nanny at home. Here, I'll do that non-swearing. I know I pay through the roof to have a nanny at home so I can have work. But it's very important to me that my children see a working woman in their house, and they see me creating, and it makes me happy and it gives me purpose. And I mean, they gave me purpose, obviously, because they're my
Exactly.
children and they're amazing. But I had a working mom, and she inspired my sister and I.
Yeah.
And I think things will change, and I think we work in McCann, so their maternity scheme is one of a kind. It's in its companies like McCann doing that, allowing more time at home when you first have a baby, so then that you come back, that I think will push over that hill and get more senior women coming back to work and staying in work, and then getting more into the leadership positions.
Yeah.
It's better, but it's not awesome.
I know, but to quote a movie that says kids are all right?
Yeah.
So kids are right, and I also believe in this lead by example.
Yeah.
I would love to ask you to lead us through this story, because what we see is a magazine, right? But it's not only a magazine.
Yeah.
Can you please lead us through the whole aspect of what the campaign was? Because I believe, I'm sure there was hundreds of elements supporting the thing.
Yes, I will take you page by page,
Yeah.
because I remember it. So it's 80 pages, and every single page challenges a stereotype of what it is to be an older woman. But if we talk about the content, when you looked at it, it was a regular Vogue. From fashion and merchandise pages, they were talking about iconic and timeless fashion, good for like past decades and good for decades to come. We had our Vogue, our beauty darling was Val Garland, which she's a makeup artist, over 50 obviously, and she talked about her favorite things. Of course, there's some L'Oreal products in there. Little
Hey,
age perfect. Fair, right?
Exactly.
And then there was a story of 4 women who, after 50, changed their life completely. One went to go live in. Start again. Then there was an article about 4 women who, after 50, completely changed their life. One woman started a charity. The next one woman got cancer. Another woman went on a world adventure, and how their life became better and more enriched when they decided to change things up at a later age. We had Catherine Baird Murray, or
Catherine?
Yeah, I'll just say Catherine because I can't remember which way. She's double-barreled.
Yeah.
We had an editor, Catherine, obviously over 50. She talks about menopause, and she does it in a witty, funny, thought-provoking way, which is where I learned about premenopause, which I didn't even know exists. So even though I'm not 50, it was still highly relevant. I mean, the content was relevant for all ages. Of course, we had Helen Mirren. She's a goddess. I love her. The most down-to-earth woman you've ever met in your life. And she had 5 beauty looks that she demonstrated. And she talked about how makeup gave her confidence. And you think a woman like Helen Mirren, that she wouldn't have confidence problems, but she does. And makeup is just a little something that, helps her get up in the morning. And then, of course, our cover star, Jane Fonda, who is also a goddess. She talked about everything from husbands to cancer. I mean, it's a vast, huge article. And we had our cover photographer, Bridget Lancombe. She's over 50. She shot the cover. It's just everything within it fulfilled this preconceived notion of what you thought aging was, and just busted down all those barriers. And it was insanely insightful. I mean, if I do say so myself. Vogue is, and it was insanely insightful, if I do say so myself. Yeah. I'm going to stop there.
Yeah. No, cool. Did you do some, how did you just put the magazine out there, or was there another element? Did you do something on digital? What was going on?
So whilst we did have, obviously, the magazine that was released, there was a whole digital platform that was also released. Social elements, whether that was interviews, exclusive interviews that weren't seen, little snippets, kind of either or, like hot chocolate or coffee, that kind of thing. Yeah. Vogue has a series called In the Bag, where you basically just flip out your bag and do your contents, which would be kind of funny to see what's in our bag.
Yeah.
It's just a little insight to the personality of
I will
who these
skip it
women
today. Obviously, find something from the kids, or missing sock.
I always have a Lego that comes out. I'm like, how'd you get in there?
Exactly.
And that is mom life.
Yeah.
And then actually, McCann Paris worked with Facebook. So the cover was had an AR aspect to it, and so our women not only seen in the magazine, but they had a voice too, which gave it another dimension.
Yeah. Good. If there was two pieces of advice, let's not go to three, that you could give to a young creative starting in this industry from your perspective, what would they be? You can think about it.
My first is go after your what if.
Okay. Can you elaborate a bit? It sounds great.
I like to be in land of mystery.
Yeah. What if exactly?
I thought True Match, that work was a what if. What if you did this? What if you thought about this? What if it's possible? And don't let barriers hold you back. Just kind of go after that what if and just try. Because the worst thing that happens is you go right back to where you started, and that wasn't that bad, right? Take those chances and don't have that fear. People have a fear of authority or of a peer and not speaking their mind or giving their opinion. And I think knowing that your voice matters is, I guess that would be another piece of advice.
Yeah. That
your voice does matter. And even saying something stupid might lead to something awesome. Like we've been in meetings where, I've been in meetings where a junior has, and not even a junior creative, but like a junior planner has said a little nugget that just like escaped out of their mouth, and everyone just turned and went, "Oh my gosh, yes, let's do that. That's perfect." Exactly. So trust your voice and allow it to grow, and I think I learn more from my mistakes than I do from my successes.
Regan, thank you. So it's good. Thank you for the what ifs, because obviously you tried it on yourself. Thank you for this conversation, and we hope to see more of your work in the months and years to come. We'll be cheering, and also hope to see you in Belgrade again. So thank you once again, Regan, very much. And thank you for spending these minutes with us. We hope this conversation was interesting enough that you learned something new, and that you will be able to take out few good advices with you on your future endeavors or adventures. Also, stay tuned. We'll be recording more of the McCann Talks with more interesting hosts and interesting guests. Thank you, and bye-bye.